The sun settled lazily over Maplewood Lane, casting long shadows that danced slowly across manicured lawns. Each house stood in quiet uniformity, a testament to an HOA's dream or nightmare, depending on whom you asked. The only disturbance in this well-curated tableau was the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hum of everyday life. It was a neighborhood defined by its rules and the silent watch of Karen McAllister. Karen had become a fixture in our lives, as permanent as the wrought iron mailboxes lining the street. She moved with a haughty grace, a self-proclaimed arbiter of order. Her gaze was sharp and her voice a weapon she wielded with deft precision. Her latest campaign had found its target in my dog, Max. Max was a creature of habit and unfettered joy. His golden coat, a flash of sunlight on even the cloudiest day. He barked at butterflies, at the rustle of squirrels, at the very audacity of the wind. His bark was more proclamation than protest, a joyous greeting to the world. But to Karen, it was an affront. The first time I saw the police car inch down our street, I almost laughed. Surely I thought this was some misunderstanding. But the sight of Karen standing beside the officer, her arm pointed pointedly at my yard, told me otherwise. Max sat beside me, tail wagging, oblivious to the storm gathering in our quiet corner of the world. Karen's complaint was succinct, clipped, and delivered with an air of finality. Public disturbance. She claimed her words cold as the steel badge pinned to the officer's chest. I listened, nodded, and promised to keep Max inside during certain hours. My response was met with a nod from the officer, a knowing look that said he had seen all this before. Life continued, though the air felt heavier, as if laden with an unsaid challenge. Karen's presence was a shadow that stretched long and dark across our days. Her petty surveillance was woven into the fabric of neighborhood life, her gaze a silent sentinel. In those quiet moments when Max lay at my feet, I pondered the nature of power. Karen wielded hers like a blade, sharp and unyielding. While I chose a quieter path, I found strength and patience in the quiet defiance of kindness. There was a certain irony to it all. Her actions were loud, brash, designed to provoke, while my response was a whisper, soft yet unyielding. I watched as Karen prowled the street, her dog Duke, a German shepherd, by her side. Duke was a contradiction to Max's joyful exuberance, a creature of discipline, yet with an undercurrent of tension that mirrored his owner. He moved with a coiled energy, a living reminder of the sharp contrasts that defined our neighborhood. One afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, a scream pierced the neighborhood's veneer of peace. It shattered the quiet, like glass, jagged and startling. My heart raced as I rushed outside, Max at my heels, his bark a question in the gathering dusk. It was then that I saw them. A child stood clutching his arm, tears streaming down his face. Nearby, Duke was being restrained by Karen, her face a mask of horror. The irony was bitter. Her own dog, the creature of regulation and control, had slipped the leash of her authority. The police arrived in a flurry of lights and protocol. I watched from my porch, a silent observer to the unraveling of Karen's ordered world. In the quiet that followed, I felt no satisfaction, only a profound sense of balance restored. The neighborhood was a tapestry, its threads woven from both chaos and calm. And tonight, the loom had shifted. In the settling dark, as the last echoes of the day faded, I knew this was just the beginning. The story of Maplewood Lane was far from over, and the coming days promised new chapters, each one more unexpected than the last. The afternoon sun hung low, casting elongated shadows across the neat grid of our suburban enclave, as if stretching the truth of our community's peace. It was the kind of day that seemed to promise tranquility. But appearances can be deft liars. As I stepped outside my front door, the air crackled with the quiet tension of an impending storm, though no clouds marred the sky. Karen's influence had grown like a noxious weed since the incident with the police and her dog. Her voice, more shrill now, carried on the wind like the screech of a rusty gate. She had taken her position on the HOA board as if it were a crown and scepter, wielding authority with an iron fist wrapped in a manicured glove. Her new list of rules read like a manifesto of petty grievances. Garden gnomes were outlawed, a whimsical rebellion against her iron rule. Trash cans were to be hidden from street view. An edict which, like her smile, was enforced with the chill of unyielding plasticity. And dogs, the innocent targets of her ire, were to be silenced or face fines that accumulated like snow on an unwelcome winter day. The community, once bustling with the warm hum of neighborly chatter, now whispered in hushed tones. Karen's shadow loomed large. Her presence felt, even in absentia. Mothers clutched their children closer, wary of letting them play too near her yard. Her dog, formerly a silent sentinel of her domain now absent, was a potent reminder of her overreach. As I walked the familiar path through our neighborhood, I noticed the subtle signs of dissent. A flicker of defiance in the form of an audacious pink flamingo standing proudly on the edge of a neighbor's lawn. The outlandish bird seemed to wink at me, its existence a quiet protest against the absurdity of our situation. Passing Karen's house, I could feel the weight of her gaze, even if the curtains were drawn. She was always watching ever the sentry for transgressions real or imagined. Her latest missive had arrived that morning, a formal notification accusing me of harboring a nuisance. My dog's joyful bark, a testament to life and vitality, now labeled as disruption. This citation was a badge of honor, a testament to life persisting amidst the suffocating grip of her decrees. Irony rich as the soil beneath my feet. The very dog she condemned now her silent partner in perceived crime. The neighborhood had become a theater, and we its unwilling actors. Karen, the self-appointed director, choreographed chaos with bureaucratic precision. Rumors flitted through the air like errant dandelion seeds, planting themselves in fertile minds eager to believe the worst. They said she was petitioning for stricter leash laws, that she had a compendium of violations collected like trophies in a war against joy. I chuckled softly to myself. The absurdity of it all. One person wielding power like a scepter, oblivious to the fact that she was the true disruption. She had forgotten that communities like gardens thrive on diversity, not uniformity. Her reign would sow discontent, its bitter fruits ripening soon. As I turned back towards home, the sun dipped below the horizon. The day surrendering to night, the world cast in shades of gray. It was in this twilight, the brief pause between the fading light and encroaching dark, that hope lingered. A reminder that every tyrant's reign, no matter how petty, eventually ends. The golden afternoon light slanted through my kitchen window, casting long shadows that lined the counter like the bars of some invisible cage. I sipped my tea, letting the warmth seep into my hands. Though my mind was elsewhere working through the tangled web of neighborhood politics, Karen's false accusations still echoed in the corridors of my mind. But the chaos she unleashed had left me with a quiet determination. It was time for subtlety. Time to unravel her web with the precision of a spider. I had started documenting everything. Little things. Like the way her dog snarled at passing neighbors, a menacing growl brewing just beneath its fluffy exterior. I took note of the whispers that rippled through gatherings, the hushed tones of parents warning their children to steer clear. I captured images with my phone, the timestamp a silent witness. The red marks on the child's leg, a stark contrast to his pale skin, were all the proof I needed when the time came. The neighborhood was a stage, and Karen had unwittingly crafted her own downfall, each act meticulously recorded. She had played her part too well. Her high-pitched reprimands echoing across our lawns, the police sirens, a reminder that justice, though slow, was inevitable. Her dog, a reflection of its owner, had become a symbol of the chaos she sowed. And the irony was not lost on anyone when the blue lights took him away. The irony was delicious. The same authority she had summoned to punish my innocent dog had now turned its gaze upon her. There was a poetic justice in the air, a balance restored. My dog, once under scrutiny, now lounged peacefully in the sunlit yard, while Karen could only watch from her window, her fortress of control crumbling quietly. I walked the neighborhood with a newfound confidence, each step a testament to my quiet victory. The whispers that once judged now turned in my favor, and I could feel the shift in the air. Parents nodded in silent solidarity as I passed their children playing freely once more. I had never intended for this to become a war, but Karen had drawn the battle lines with her own hands. Her downfall was of her own making, and I merely held up the mirror. Her dog, once untouchable, had become a liability, and the neighborhood bore witness. I listened to the gentle rustle of leaves, the world settling back into its natural rhythm, free from interruption. The sun dipped lower, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink, as if nature itself celebrated the return of peace. I stood at my window, the last of the daylight filtering through, and watched as Karen closed her shades, a solitary figure retreating into the shadows she had cast upon herself. Silence returned, the only sound the distant hum of life continuing uninterrupted. This was my victory, quiet, understated but complete. And as I turned away, leaving behind the battlefields of manicured lawns and white picket fences, I realized that sometimes the best revenge is simply to endure. I stood on my porch, a silent observer in the unfolding theater that was my neighborhood. The street was quiet, now echoes of the recent frenzy lingering in the air like a stubborn fog. It wasn't long ago that Karen's shrill demands for order had reverberated through this placid suburban canvas, a discordant note in an otherwise harmonious ensemble. But now my focus had shifted from the chaos of her antics to the quiet strength of action. Retribution is best served cold. They say I'm not one for vengeance, but justice has a way of finding its mark. I took a deep breath, letting the cool evening breeze cleanse the residue of past indignations. The rustling leaves whispered secrets to one another, mirroring the quiet conversations that now lingered in my head. Karen's downfall began ironically with her own demands for order. That call to 911, a theatrical performance accusing my dog of disturbing the peace, had become her undoing. The irony was as rich as a sunset painting, the sky gold. It was only a matter of time before the truth snapped back like a rubber band stretched too far. I had taken steps quiet, but firm. A visit to my lawyer, the wheels of justice turning with the precision of a Swiss watch, set in motion a chain of events Karen never anticipated. Legal papers as crisp as the autumn air were delivered to her door. Her fortress of rules and regulations. Once her shield, now served as her cage. HOA guidelines she so fervently championed had clear stipulations about pets. Biting incidents not tolerated, not even for the self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac. My lawyer was a maestro of the legal symphony, every note meticulously planned. We crafted our case with the precision of a sculptor chiseling away at a marble slab. each motion revealing the truth beneath Karen's myriad of complaints filed over the years. All neatly catalogued were now juxtaposed against her own transgressions, her hypocrisy laid bare like a garment unraveled at the seams. The irony was delicious. Her misguided attempts at control spiraled a dance of folly that ended with the unexpected twist a police visit, but not for my dog. The officers were courteous, almost apologetic as they led her yapping Pomeranian away. It was a scene straight out of a dark comedy, her protest drowned by her pet's indignant barks. In the days that followed, the neighborhood adjusted its rhythm. Karen's absence from her usual post peering from behind lace curtains, ever watchful, was a surprising calm. The air seemed lighter without the weight of her scrutiny. Neighbors exchanged knowing looks, a silent camaraderie blossoming in her wake. I sipped my coffee. The bitterness, a comforting contrast to the sweet satisfaction of justice served Karen, would be back eventually. Perhaps with a little more humility. Perhaps not. But the balance had shifted, a subtle tilting in favor of peace. Justice has its own rhythm, unhurried, methodical. It finds its way even in the most tangled of circumstances, and sometimes, sometimes the scales tip in favor of those who wait patiently, letting the narrative unfold in its own time. The street once again became a quiet canvas of suburban tranquility, each house a testament to resilience and the quietly powerful. I turned back to my home heart lighter, knowing that sometimes the best stories are those where justice speaks louder than words. The whispers of dusk settled over the neighborhood like a silk shroud. A soft breeze tugged at the edges of comfort, carrying the last echoes of children's laughter, now laced with a sense of relief. The community was healing, but the scars were still tender, not easily forgotten. Karen's house stood at the bend of the cul-de-sac, its pristine white paint now a stark reminder of her self-imposed isolation. Her lawn, once the greenest patch of false ambition, now grew wild with neglect, as if nature itself had turned against her reign. The neighborhood, however, had found a new rhythm, a rhythm that didn't skip a beat to her relentless drumming. I paused at the edge of my garden, hands resting on the wooden handle of a hoe, feeling the day's toil in my bones. My dog Bella lay nearby, basking in her newfound freedom, occasionally flicking an ear at the distant chirp of crickets. For the first time in weeks, her eyes held a peace unbroken by the frantic shriek of Karen's demands or the looming threat of authority. Karen had not shown her face since the incident with the police. The irony, still fresh and sharp, danced through my thoughts. The very authority she had weaponized against my Bella had seen fit to take her own dog, a creature as ill-tempered as its owner. The boy who had been bitten was recovering well, his parents' gratitude a warm balm over the community's bruised spirit. I remember the day the officers had come for Karen's dog. The air had cracked with tension as she protested, her voice rising like a tide that no longer swept us away. There was a moment, a brief pause where our eyes met across the street. In that gaze, I saw the crumbling of her fortress, the realization that she had built her dominion on sand. Now she remained cloistered within her walls, the queen of a kingdom that no longer existed. The community, once divided by her whims and complaints, had bonded over shared stories, shared laughter. We had reclaimed our streets, our silence punctuated by the occasional bark or the gentle hum of life returning to its natural course. I moved to trim the roses, their petals a deep red against the fading twilight. Each cut, each precise snip echoed the trimming away of Karen's influence. Her absence had become a presence of its own, a lesson in humility that she had yet to learn. Yet there was no gloating satisfaction in this knowledge, only a quiet understanding of balance restored. The days passed with a rhythmic simplicity. School buses came and went. Children played, and the air was filled with aromas of weekend barbecues. Karen's shadow still lingered, but it was a distant echo, one that would eventually fade into the background noise of suburban life. As darkness settled, I turned to head inside, Bella trotting by my side. The stars above winked into existence, pinpricks of light in the vast tapestry of night. The world felt right again, aligned by the gentle hand of time and the unwavering spirit of a community, united not by conflict but by resilience. In the quiet of my home, I found solace. There, in the flickering candlelight, I reflected on the journey not just of dogs and neighbors, but of the soul. It was a tale as old as time of shadows and light of silence and the reclaiming of voice. And in this dance of life, I realized we had all played our parts, even Karen.